Welcome to The Lumber Word, where industry veterans Matt Beamer, Greg Riley, and Ashley Buckhold dissect the world of commodity lumber each week. We bring you up-to-date insights on supply, demand, and market trends, sharing our trading expertise to benefit everyone in the supply chain. Join us for informative and entertaining discussions that guarantee to make you wiser about all things lumber.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's The Lumber Word, episode number 88. And we'll have a title for this after we go through it. What do you think, Greg? What kind of you guys want to title it now?
No.
We've got our reoccurring guest, Joe Pepe from LMC. Joe, welcome back.
Yep, third time. Appreciate it. Means a lot. 88. That's a Patrick Kane number for Greg right there. You know, that's not a bad number to be right now. There you go.
Right on. Joe, before we jump into it, I'd love to put a plug in for LMC. Talk about what you all do and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, our social media has been pretty great. We're all over LinkedIn now, but LMC, we're the biggest and best buying co-op out there. So I like to say we have over 400 members, over 1,500 locations. You could reach me at jpepe@lmc.net. I'm just a spruce trader at LMC. We do a lot of other things. Last year, I believe we were close to $7 billion in purchases throughout all of our members. So reach out.
Right on. I appreciate that, Joe. And just so they know, it's Pepe, J-P-E-P-E.
Yep. And it's Pepe like the skunk, Pepe Le Pew.
There you go.
We're thinking that, I bet there's some listeners out here that, could be some potential new members.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
This is like, if you're independent, you hook on with LMC and it's like you have the power of like a multinational like majors, right? I mean,
exactly.
You're buying,
and the more members we have,
you're buying right with just like the big boys do, just like the
that's
big
right.
boys.
That's right. Yep. And the more members we have, the bigger that footprint becomes.
And you probably turn them on to all sorts of back end spiffs too, don't you?
I can't confirm or deny. Well, I can't make an official statement on that.
All right. Well, Greg. We missed you last week, but hopefully, you brought another trophy home.
The squad did not perform at the level that was needed for that, but we did win. We did win a little head-to-head match with our arch rival team. So that was pretty good. We were able to just hang on to that.
I love it. I played my first round of golf Monday. I had my first swing off the first tee for the whole year. Worked out fabulous. It was a scramble. That's those.
A great way to come out of the gate first time playing scramble. It
really gives you a false sense of how good you are. At least that's how I felt after leaving. I wanted to go out and play again, and I know better.
Yeah. Are you the guy taking the first shot? You're not the guy taking the last shot, right?
I go
You're the
first.
guy I want to go
first.
You're not the anchor when it's like, oh crap, the first three guys messed up. We need this one.
Now, I like to try to get us as close as we can to take the pressure off the team.
I love that. Look at that. There you go.
You want to be the B or the C player. You don't want to be the A or the D player. Right?
That's right. That's
A
right.
player, too much pressure. D player, you kind of suck.
But you got to have one or two good drives. I've done
all those, Greg. Have you done the A player before?
Beamer, I can see you as the A player quite often.
Yeah, Beamer, you're an A player. Come on.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you've ever been the A player before.
If I'm the A player, we're in a lot of trouble. I thrive. It's just kind of like when back in my basketball days. I like to be that 3-4 guy, right? That was fine. I'm good with that. So I'm a role player, Matt. I'm just looking how can I help the team out? That's all I'm looking to do.
You're just trying to fit in.
Did you guys see? Did you watch the gold medal basketball game over the weekend?
Yeah,
that was so much fun. Steph Curry. I've never been. I always had respect, but because he was in Golden State, I was like, Right. But man, that guy, they just let him cook. They just let him cook. Deal. He went off.
Well,
do you want to talk lumber, Ash?
Yeah, I like to repackage a lot of Greg's ideas and make them as my own. Try to give him all the due respect for that. And, talking to Matt yesterday, I had a bunch of things in my head I wanted to talk about. the market seems to be plodding along. I mean, let's run around the market. Eastern spruce, some of the items are hard to buy. I mean, I was a little surprised this morning when I went around the Eastern spruce market, and heck, all the mills are up in price. Some of them actually have an order file now. I haven't seen an order file for a long time, right? And a couple of the big ones are saying they've got a 3-week order file on 2x6, 2x4 MSR. I didn't see a lot of straights in 2x4 number 2. Matt, you updated me on some number 3 yesterday. Studs are still trying to pull a little bit, especially 9-footers. But Joe, we were talking before. You said you're seeing starting to get some decent numbers on 8s and 9-foot, 9-foot out of the East. What are you seeing out of the East, Joe, right now?
Yeah, I mean, right now I like studs a lot out of the East. I think the pricing is really good right now. I mean, we saw on 92 and 5/8, we saw like 460 delivered North Carolina by rail, which I consider that a really sharp number here, probably throughout the year. And then 104s, we saw around 475, which I feel is pretty good too. I think anything 20 to 25 bucks under that 500 number, I think that's a good deal here for the rest of the year. I think that's going to be sharp.
Joe, one of the things that I'm trying to wrap my head around is, what are dealers' inventory levels like? Small, medium, or large? I mean,
Yeah,
I've kind of gotten some input from some of the majors where they're at, and I was just wondering from your perspective what you see, the average LMC member inventory at.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been saying they're heavy, and then there's just the takeaway has just not been that consistent. They'll come in and customers will buy most of their inventory in a week, and all of a sudden they need coverage. I think they think they're covered heavy, but they're not. People just keep coming in and buying again after saying they're heavy. So I would consider that, I guess we can call it a medium inventory. But moving forward here, especially 2x6, I definitely recommend people to try to get long on that. It's not going to be out there.
That's like the tight shirt people wear at the gym called the schmedium.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was just having a conversation with multiple people, and Matt, this is kind of something that you've been saying for a long time, is that big buyers are going to keep their inventories on the low end. There's no incentive. They don't see any reason to do anything more than that. And so I look at the market and I go, okay, so retail end user inventory at the big guys is probably as low as it can get. And every day, every week, they need to buy based on their current consumption to keep that steady. They're not building any inventory. They're replacement buying and have been, Matt, for what, 60 days or more, right?
2 years.
So maybe the price strength now is saying that replacement buying is more than the current level of production.
Production
Well,
is
number-
decreasing, and yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Production is decreasing, and we're going into the shoulder season with increased demand. So, the math works right now if you're looking for higher prices, and that's what we're seeing. But I would even go further. I would divide the market in two separate categories. You got 2x6 through 2x12. That's one category. And then you have 2x4. And 2x4 is just there. It's just there. It's worth more now than it was a month ago because the whole market has rallied, but it's still, you can buy 2x4, you can sell 2x4. You can trade it all day long. Nobody's getting excited about buying extra of it, and nobody's running out of it. The one thing that's changed in my world is 16s. They've definitely gotten better, quite a bit better. And so I think that that's something that I've talked about. I'm going to continue to focus on 16s. It's just the trend. The way that people want to consume lumber these days is 16 heavy on 2x4. But I think that's going to dry up over the next 60 to 90 days as these mills are going to target 2x6 and wider production because the math on 2x6 is much better than 2x4 right now. So all these Western mills that have been sort of bumping along with 2x4 for really all of this year, they're going to figure out how to make more 2x6, and you're going to see less 2x4 hitting the market here over the next 30 to 60 days. And Maybe they'll have an impact, maybe it won't. All I know is it's not changing my feeling about the market is basically tied to 2 before, right? Because the futures contract is 2 before, my inventory is heavy 2 before. And my
So
plan
Matt, are you
is
saying that I should look for 2x4 16s to be closer to $600 delivered than $500 in the fall?
I mean, I'm getting 500 for number 3, so I hope you're not selling number 2 at 500. You can do what you want, but I don't think
I'm not going
that's
to
a
say
very
that
good.
didn't happen a few weeks ago.
It did. Everybody took what they had to take a month ago, right? And Ashley was on top of it and said that he thought we were at the bottom. He was right. So
Did he call the bottom of the market? Did
he
he
did,
call
and
the
we're going to
bottom?
keep patting him on the back for it. But I think there's going to be there might be a little bit more fun or excitement around 2x4 in 30 or 60 days than there is today. That's all I see. I see the mills are going to target the 2x6 and wider because it's just there's an unending amount of inquiry for it, and there's not enough being produced to cover the demand for it right now as we speak. So mills will find ways to make more of what people want. That's never been more true than right now.
One interesting thing, we were kicking that on the office yesterday, and it's like, all right, Greg said, hey, think about it. The extra production that came out in the Eastern Canadian market is 2x4, right? Not as much 2x6. Tiny trees. Western.
How do they make 2x4s out of those trees? That's what I want to know.
Kerf saws.
That's like a modern miracle.
But then you think about it, the amount of lumber you mentioned at the beginning, Greg, that came off maybe where there's that one truck less being produced and consumed. I mean, Interfor said they're going to take off in their report last week 200 to 300 million for the end of the year. I mean, think about that. Annualized or 380, that's almost 1 billion board feet of production annualized. And if you add up all the numbers, and Matt, we looked at some of those numbers in that spreadsheet, that's almost 4 billion board feet annualized off the market. A lot of that in the West, and a lot of that are mills that make probably 6-inch, right? But Matt, you're right. And you're going to probably see all of a sudden, what do you think is going to load up over in Europe in the next 2 or 3 months? 2x6, right? So it's going to be.
I don't know that. I don't know that. Do they like to make 2x6 in Europe? That's a question for the floor here.
I mean, they're going to make they're going to make some more, but that, you know what, that probably doesn't show up until November, December. By the time
all that planning and everything to, what they need to produce, how long it takes to get here.
Yeah.
If you put that in the pipeline, in the next 2 weeks, say, hey, we want to ship more 2x6. That next arrival is like, mid-November.
Right. Yeah.
Well, here's something else to think about.
Exports, it's down this year. It's down big, at least here in end of Q3 going into Q4. The Europeans have been saying we're going to send less, and then they finally have. Sorry, Matt.
No, I just want to make
there is less now, for sure.
There's a side issue that's not really widely discussed, but the log size in the West is smaller right now than what we want. And so we're having to turn down a lot of 2x12 opportunity because we can't get a big enough log to cover what we've already got sold versus what people want to buy going forward. So then you look at a sawmill in the West, and I'm talking about the Hampton types that can produce the full range from 2x4 through 2x12 and long lengths. If you're going to be stuck producing more 2x4, 2x6, and 2x8 and less 2x10 and 2x12 because your log diameter is smaller on average, then which one of those three would you pick or which two of those three would you pick to make the most of right now? If you're the mill manager and you've got optimizers and you can look at random length specimens.
You'd run 2x6.
It would be 2x6 and 2x8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 2x8. 2x8's hot as a pistol. So
it's like money
there's just going to be more. There's going to be more of that and less of 2x4.
Variable lag. And in the short to intermediate term, there's going to continue to have relative strength. And some point, later in the year, then those things are going to come back together. Matt, I think you're good. Great point, though. It's probably going to have a bigger impact on 4-inch going higher than anything.
I have a question, more of a comment. I was talking to a young guy yesterday, and I was telling him that if you're going to see a run in 2.
What do you mean by that?
He's like 30.
Whoa. Joe, he's
That's
talking
young.
to you.
Young now.
I'm not 30 yet. So.
What?
But I mentioned that if you're if you're going to see a run in 2 by 6, it typically happens in the fall, right? I said just historically that's a trend that I've noticed over the years, and I think it's not. I'm not the only one. I think it's been widely understood that 2 by 6, if it's going to make a run, it usually does it in the fall. And he said he had never heard that before. And I said, okay, well, that gives me an idea for our little podcast. Are there some sort of, I guess, seasonal truisms or long-term realities of our business that you can share with the wider world that are consistently true?
Well, yeah,
Not
you mean
always, but
identify
90%
one.
of the
There's
time. And that,
seasonal strength in 2 by 6 into the fall. Ash, what else is there a strong tendency to have seasonal strength into the fall? What other items are there, Ash?
MSR.
Ooh, yeah. And
yep,
especially when you look at the relative reduced production of Western SPF, MSR premiums are going to blow up here in the next 45 to 60 days. We started to see the trickle of it, but it's going to blow up.
Yeah. In full disclosure, we're long a lot of that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because we try and have
no, but
we try and have transparency. So that's good. You did that, Ash.
So
That's
let
a
me
great position.
let me try to get this thought out there. All right, so we can look at the futures right now. Say we've made a nice bounce up, and we're holding a big premium. I don't know, where are we currently, Greg? Somewhere on
525, which is a $45 $40+ premium to like midweek print.
and that's a big premium. I think a lot of people are going to be rolling over the next few weeks. You said, the funds, I like watching them and have been watching them. They started coming out over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I'm still concerned they're going to pile back in on the short side. I hope I don't know that, but that's just one thing in the back of my mind, since they're short every commodity out there and have only been buying out of lumber. But if they continue, we can keep moving the price up a little bit. We got housing starts coming out this week, Greg.
Housing starts come out on Friday.
On Friday.
Would you like to know what the estimate is?
I'd love to know the estimate.
Okay, give me a minute.
And we have Home Depot came out, kind of walked back expectations a little bit this year. But, if people had been listening to the show, we talked about this 3 or 4 months ago about how all of us in the industry were starting to see a lot more premium wood that usually goes there that wasn't going there. And we felt that there was some pushback on the repair and remodel. So when I'm standing in Greg's office watching CNBC talk about yesterday how there's going to be less repair and remodel, we were talking about this 4 months ago. So in my thought is, it's always interesting when you watch people that don't know anything about the lumber business talk about it, or the construction business. Maybe we've started to make that turn around after everybody starts talking about it. So my thought is, where are we at on futures right now? Will cash get pulled up to meet that at some point here? And what's the trend going to be the rest of this quarter?
appears as though the trend is in our favor as producers.
But so my thought was along that thing what Greg said is, when we quote people trucks a lot of times, and my theory is I think we're starting to make that supply and demand equilibrium come a little bit more into play. And I have no control over anything that happens in this world that we can't control, right? War and all that kind of stuff. But if we're just talking about where we're at right now,
right,
when we're quoting people, we're usually quote 2 to 3 weeks out or sooner with stuff on the ground. And we got some feedback on that today. Greg might have mentioned, it's like, we thought we were throwing really good numbers on some trucks. And this guy said, hey, your numbers are great, and I'd buy it from you if you weren't 2 or 3 weeks out. Right. So that brought up the whole thing. It's
That's
like,
what
okay,
I don't get right. I don't get that right now.
Yeah, but it's like I'll buy it for you, but if you can ship it next week, your prices probably could get more for it, right? But the point is, you can only, we're moving so many trucks a week, we can't bump stuff, and sometimes there's better lanes. Back to what we were saying at the beginning of this, I think a lot of dealers and large ones are really managing cash flow, and they're running them stuff as low as they normally. Probably as low as they've ever been in many cases. And it's worked okay, Matt, because there's plenty of wood sitting around. There has been. I don't think there's as much anymore sitting around to ship trucks to people in a quick manner, right?
Well, I think that there's plenty of lumber still sitting in people's yards, but it's not 16s.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They want 16s because that's what they're selling the most of, and they've got plenty of 10s, 12s, 14s. They don't have a lot of 16, 18, 20. Nobody ever wants to have a lot of 8s laying around, so they'll either get rid of them or they'll process them into 92s or something like that just to
I
get
got
rid
some
of them.
good feedback on that one for you, Matt. 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, we sold like 15 trucks of straight 16s to this one area. I'm like, why are you buying so many 16s? And he said, well, this big home builder that we just picked up the business only wants almost all 16s, right? Undervalued item and pretty easy to cut up and ship around, right?
Yeah, he probably used to use
Maybe they
14s when
listen
they
to
were
our
at a discount.
podcast.
Sorry for the delay there, but the consensus forecast for July housing starts, which will be released at 7:30 Central Time on Friday, August 16th, is 1.35 million starts, which is going to be pretty much unchanged from the prior month. The forecast for permits is 1.45, which is marginally higher. I think the thing we really want to watch is, do completions are they still on that blowout number of like 1,000,007? And let's look at what happens on the prior month's revisions and see how that's going to play out. I mean, the reality, July number, the actual number has to be pretty big to hold the annualized number. So we'll see. I mean, I think that's kind of consistent with where we are. We're kind of expecting, hey, the year is going to be like, a mid 1.3s, which, actually is, I mean, that's not bad. And it's single family up a little bit, multifamily down a bunch, right?
I mean, honestly, Greg, in a high interest rate environment for the year and with all kinds of political and worldwide turmoil, I'd say 1.3 to 1.4 is pretty darn
Yeah, I
good,
totally
really
agree.
considering. So then that leads into the next question for the group here is, everybody that listens to our podcast has their foot in the cash market,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they're in the business. They know what's going on now. They know what to expect 30 days from now. They have an idea what to expect 60 days from now. They listen to us either to confirm or deny their own, businesses, but we're just sharing information. But we all have an opinion about the next 60 days, right? What about the next 6 months? Let's go into the first quarter of 2025. Let's try to fast forward a little bit. What are your guys' thoughts about 2025 on two subjects? On the retail side, on the home builder, Lennar Horton type side, and then on the multifamily side.
Well, I guess to start it, where do we think the Fed's going to be lowering rates to by then as well? And house interest rates in general? Are they going to go down a whole point or 2 points by then? Like, what do we to start with that?
I saw some of these home builders out with that 3-year deal they have with your first year is 1% to 2%, your next year, and then it goes out to 5%. So a lot of the new construction from the bigs are already throwing low rates out there that they manage that.
Yeah.
But
Saw that guy. What's the guy on there all over LinkedIn? Lance Lambert, is that his name?
Lance.
He
Yeah,
posted
Lance.
that a big percentage of new houses being bought are back to that adjustable interest rate to get people in the door.
Yeah, rates. I have no idea. I know they're down, and I follow Lance when I look at the rates. But I think retail, Matt. If I was looking at it, so next year, if I look, we just saw this new. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Duty quota, whatever it is, just came out, got posted. Where it's like, this is how much more the Canadians, depending on where they're at, are going to pay,
Right.
to ship their lumber across, right? And it's going to actually accelerate, I think, at some point in 2025. So if you look at this, I mean, you're talking some of these things are almost 80 to $100 a thousand more projected raising a cost, right? I don't know if it's going to play out like that or if there's going to be a negotiated settlement. So if I just look forward, you're going to have less wood being produced probably in BC and some other places, other high cost producers probably trying to figure out how to make less unless the price goes up long term. If I'm a home builder, I would also be looking for higher input costs on lumber, especially where we're sitting at right now. And I'd be thinking of a way to go and ask the people that ship that last mile to me and price my building packages to how they can protect me instead of for just 30 days, I'd ask them to look at the curve and see what they can do for 90, 120, 6 months and give them firm pricing. Force people to give you firm pricing on lumber, especially where we're sitting right now, and look at what it is. I mean, or learn how to do it yourself. Because if you're building a large amount of projects right now, and you don't want to put it all on the ground, find out what it costs to lock it in long term. In multifamily, I'm going to go back to what Brian Westbury said a month ago when he was on here, or 3 weeks ago. The amount of people we have coming into the country, cost of homes, I think at some point we're going to figure out a way, and I think we've already made the turn on multifamily. We're gonna that's gonna come back. So that's my
I
thought.
feel like last week you talked about that there's some unmanaged risk in the second half of the year and into the first quarter next year. And I think you're right about that. All that coupled with higher tariffs, higher cost of doing business. I mean, it just costs more to run a lumber mill now than it did 5 years ago. Everything costs more. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Because I've been kind of like neutral about the second half of this year. And I'm still neutral. I feel like we're in a good little uptick here, and that's great. But we just spent all of July just getting our teeth kicked in too. So it's like we're just recovering ground that we lost, right? It's not like we're not at 600 mil here. We're not setting any sales price records in August, but we're having a nice little firming, a bounce, whatever you want to call it. The goalposts are moving. Some things are happening in our business with the tariffs, and now there's some things happening with politics that and you look at rates as part of the political process, right? I mean, the Biden White House spent a year or 6 months telling everybody we're not in a recession a year ago, right? Remember that? No, we're not in a recession. We still have GDP growth. So then the Fed was at the same time raising rates, and they were like howling like, "Hey, drop rates, drop rates." And then at the end of last year, we had all the bigwig financial people in New York talking about the Fed's going to drop rates 4 times in 2024. And I was skeptical of that because I see what's happening in lumber.
Yeah, you won
But
your bet with
now
your broker, didn't you?
you're going to see that.
Yeah.
Not yet, because it's for the whole year, right? So if they drop rates a couple times, I lose my $5 bet. But
Well, I thought it was over
I
under
do
was
think
he was like
I
at
do think we're
4. He
set
was
up
at
for
4,
some
I
nice
thought.
things here. He said we were gonna get 4, and I said I don't think they'll get more than 1.
No.
He
Yeah,
goes, okay, I'll bet you.
that's gonna be tight. That's a lot like my Cubs Mets record bet. I mean, Cubs are making a little bit of a move here, but I'm concerned about September. Cubs love to like.
What are your thoughts about Greg? What are your thoughts about going into 6 months forward? Just fast forward 6
So
months. What do you think?
that's I mean, I kind of live in the 60 to 90 day world, and once I get past there, then I'm just spitballing because there's so many unknown unknowns that like anything that I come up with is I just make it up, right? I mean, I have no basis for it. I just make it up, and that's what I see so many people like, hey, projecting 2025. You're like, you can't even project the next 6 months, 3 months. But so I'm going to go back to what I feel comfortable with. I am in this place right now where we're so well balanced that if something tips us, we could move $30 to $100 higher from here, or if not, then we're probably a grinding one step forward, one step back until October. But we know that if we fall off from these numbers, that we're going to get more curtailment. The mills just added $20 to $30 a thousand to their cost. So you can take where the pain was 30 days ago and raise that pain threshold. So
Yeah.
I think we need a catalyst. To your point.
It's also, Greg, it's also going to affect what comes across the border. Because if you're paying a 14% tariff instead of a 6 or 8% tariff, all of a sudden your low grade doesn't look so attractive to ship to, Texas or Iowa anymore. That economy, that really cheap economy that's been floating around the market all year, that's going to really dry up. I mean, I already have seen that at my desk. I've had people call me from nowhere that I'd never even heard of before and buy cars of economy from me just out of the blue. So I think that you'll see the 2x6 number 3. That'll get more China business. It'll go export. It won't stay domestic. There's going to be some changes on the low end of the market, and then any cheap 2x4 92 and 5/8 or 8-footers, anything that's really an undervalued product or a fall down type product there's going to be new ways of getting rid of that for sawmills that don't involve the United States of America.
I think Ash had a really good point when he said that if you're a home builder, you should look to lock in your prices farther, and if you're a multifamily, you should certainly look to get those jobs locked in anywhere near, if you can get anywhere near to today's prices, because what we know is we've had a slight up move, but we're still at probably unsustainable prices. And we know that the market always overcorrects whatever direction it's going.
I have to guess that a lot of these we have home builders listening to us, that just do the Minneapolis market. Then there's regional ones and there's national ones. Your numbers on your next lock with your lumberyard are probably going up. Because you're probably getting to the end of that 30 to 60 days that you did back a few months ago. And I would give your people a call and say, hey, what's our next 30, 60 days look like? And can you give me 90, 120 or through the rest of the year?
Hey, Joe, do you have many dealers that look for long-term fixed pricing, or are they more like flow with the market? And I guess, the B question on that is, if you do have them, do you do that, or do you outsource it?
Sure. We have our futures coordinator, John Brady. He does all that forward pricing here. I think it's something that's more. It's one of those things that people, you teach it to them 5 or 6 times and they still either refuse to understand it or whatever the case is. And, I would say maybe 10 to 15% of our dealers will probably use a forward pricing type of tool.
Okay.
But it's just one of those things where, again, they're just not, whatever the case is, they just can't get comfortable with it. There's so many different yards out there, big businesses that, hey, this is our way of doing it. This is how we've always done it. Could teach them one thing and, it still won't take, it's one of those things.
But are you seeing a little bit of an uptake and just people more interested in it now, Joe?
I would say for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a note written down here and it's like, I want to spend all but 2 seconds on it because everybody that calls me talks about a rail strike and an impending rail strike. And what's the history of rail strikes?
Nada. Zip. Nothing.
Yeah. And I've been told it's different this time. And I mean, maybe not. I guess when a market's always moving up, anything adds to that. If a market's moving down and we had talks of these rail strikes, it doesn't do anything. I always think they get taken care of, worked out. I just think
on the plus side, Ash, right now is you've had all of this chatter about it, but I don't feel like anyone in the marketplace has made a decision that they should do something because of it. Is that realistic?
I mean, after what you said, after what we've seen, certainly nobody's quote unquote padding an inventory or buying an extra week or two at all. So the same people that are telling me about a rail strike aren't reacting to it.
Hey, Matt, I hear reports that the U.S. West market, particularly down I-5, has been very strong lately. Can you confirm or deny that?
Yeah.
Look at the green. Matt told us it was blowing up last 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. It still is.
Green Doug fir and dry Doug fir on the West Coast has been really electric here for 3 weeks. So it's good for us. It's good for what we make. It's good for any of the Canadian mills that are producing any Doug fir because that's something that they struggle with at times. Hell, I even sold some Doug fir today, which is unusual. I'm not a Doug fir guy. But yeah, no, it's like just the bites on out west, right? When it comes to Oregon, Washington, California, they spent a long time not buying, and all of a sudden,
and you know what they say? How California goes, so goes the rest of the nation.
Oh no!
Really?
That scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I hope not.
Did you see the deal? So they get the signatures to get an initiative to make it so that they can't raise taxes any further unless they vote on it. And the legislators trying to figure an end run around how they can keep that off the ballot. I'm like, yeah, why would you want to let people vote on, what they want? It's like, there I go. I got political again. Damn.
Yeah.
Not letting people vote.
Yeah. It's like,
That's trouble.
I think the way of the modern version of whatever California is doing, the rest of the nation follows, would be whatever Florida and Texas are doing is the rest of the nation follows, because that's where everybody's been moving to the last 5 years.
That does, so politically, that does bring me up one point relative to what the business that we're in. Matt, I had a guy call me, listen to our show, likes it, friend of yours and mine, doesn't like too much limelight, but wants to always give me some good ideas, right? And he's like, hey, up in the Pacific Northwest in this area that I'm in, he goes, it costs X to get a building permit and it can take 3 years. And it was a huge number of what it costs for a building permit for a new home. I want to say it was like 50,000 plus. Am I off there? Or, I mean, it was it
depends on what city and municipality you're talking about. But when I did a remodel and an addition on my house in 2015, it was $20,000, and it took about a year to get it in Portland. I lived in Portland at the time, so that was the Portland city I was dealing with, and
for a remodel.
So I mean, not for a remodel, yeah. And all I did was build a 1,000 square foot platform to build on. So it wasn't like I was building a 4,000 square foot behemoth house or anything like that. It was just I was adding a garage and a second story to my existing.
So Brian mentioned it, and he heard Brian say it, and he goes, I liked what you guys talked about on the show with Brian. He goes, it's true. When you go around to some of these big areas that build homes, they could build faster, they could build more, but they're so hindered and impeded by what's the right way to say it? The quagmire of paperwork and government.
Well, it's just regulation and the cost of doing business. I mean, we could build more homes faster if that was loosened up. That's for sure.
Government, if you're listening, make it easier to build homes for people and make it faster. That will help solve the homeless problem.
And it's across the spectrum. I mean, there's just so much extra cost and regulation in general across business. And hey, listen, we need to have there needs to be a certain level of check and balance, but it just seems like we've swung pretty far the other way, and we could swing back some. Now, I'm going to go off the reservation again, Ash, and just say,
oh no,
no, maybe I'm not going to go there. not this week. I'm going to save that. Yeah, I'm going to save that.
Well, let's jump into the beautiful part of the show. The married
date. Going, come on, I want to hear it.
The married date, married date and dump segment, because I think, as Matt brought up in here, there's some great trending things. There's some good undervalued things. Let's jump in. Anybody want to kick it off? Or all right, I'll go. So, Mary, for the next 3 months, MSR, I think it's undervalued, especially 4-inch 2x4, 1650 and 2100. 2100 really started to make the move already because it competes with pine in different lengths, which are also up. I think historically over the next 3 months, it will move and make a significant move against 2x4, 2 and better. So I like that. I'm just going to pick one, and then we'll go to date. Like I said, I got a love-hate relationship with this one. 2x4, 104 and 5/8. Like, man, I just they're not treating me well, but they still have a lot of love in them. I think they're like, I just got a new puppy. They're like a new puppy. They're really good looking, and you think they're great, and all of a sudden, they just pee on the floor. Right.
And shit everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So exactly. So it's like, I think they're like 104 and 5/8. I'm gonna keep them and just see. And I think they'll come around. Yes, they're a big multifamily thing, and yes, that's a big item produced in the East. But I think they're gonna do some heavy lifting. And dump. I would say anything that I've got on 6-inch left, probably. If I was going to dump something, I would get the best number I can, and probably something I don't want to replace a lot of right now going forward. Matt, I love anything in 16s, and you kind of got us all geezed up on that a month ago. So
I didn't know I had that much
that's
power. Wow, I'm gonna start using it.
You spent a lot of our money.
That's funny. I'm not gonna do the marry thing because there's really nothing I want to marry that I haven't married already.
How many times can you get
Now I
married?
just want to.
Can you just keep getting
You know, I'm
married as
married
much
like
as you
12
want?
times.
A lot of paperwork.
So yeah, I'm going into the dating pool though. I'm dating 2 by 6 and wider just because it's hot right now and it's going to remain that way until the demand is satisfied. So that's the kind of thing you want to date. I mean, I last couple weeks ago I said I wanted to marry cheap 2 before 92s and 104s. I mean, if they're still out there, I'd still marry them, but they're not cheap anymore, right? You know, they're off the bottom. So that being said, I'd like you, Ashley. I kind of like them. You know, I think they're still undervalued. So I pay attention to that kind of stuff. The dump thing really just links in my inventory that I don't want anymore. Like I've been liquidating 12s, 2 before 12s. I'm about halfway done. I mean, I'm actually having some pretty good success with it here the last few weeks, so I can't complain, but I've got more to go. And then at some point, I'll probably have to sell off, you know, half a dozen trucks at 2 before 8 foot #3, just because you always have to. It's just nobody wants them unless you're like a fence maker or something, you know, some industrial guy that's going to PET them. So that's where I'm at in terms of the married date. Don't really want to marry anything. I've already married it. The dating, the hot stuff, and then dumping the excess inventory links that I have still.
I like it. Greg, I'll let you talk about I do have one in my head that I want to dump in the Cape, but I'll
Go ahead,
defer.
Joe.
I kind of want to hear what Ashley wants to dump in the Cape.
So, you know what? I think I want to dump some no grade stamp. Like,
Yeah,
You've
we
been
unloaded,
saying you want to dump that for a month.
and I keep
mean,
raising
I
the price on it.
I want to buy it.
Well, that may be
cheap.
too, because Matt had me all pumped up on number 3 the other day, and it's just that I'm not doing a good enough job getting it moved.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I think out of Florida, I mean, with anything without a grade stamp, the quicker it's gone, the better. I don't like holding anything without a grade stamp down there. It's just, again, it's just absolute hit or miss. There has to be a certain margin. I don't know the exact between number 2 and no grade stamp, and then of course, I mean, customer base for no grade stamp. I mean, it's small to begin with, and I mean,
But it's
How many
premium. But it's
how many
premium, no grade
applications?
stamp, Joe? It's premium.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or
looks
what
great with no stamp.
the spread between
do you have that? Do you have any of that premium economy? I go, yeah,
Yep.
it's premium. That's why we grade. That's why it's economy. Is because it's premium.
Yeah, no, I do like.
It's got knots the size of the board.
Yeah, I do love the people that say this is a number 3 no grade stamp. It's not a number 3 if there's no number 3 stamp on it. That would be it is a no grade stamp.
That's so some people can sell it for number 2.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, anything no grade stamp. Yeah, I think that's not something that should be held on too long.
So, what's your married date dump there, Joe?
Ash, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, especially with the studs. Kind of dating them right now. I think they're not at the bottom that they were, but I still think they're at a good range. Nothing here in this market right now. I mean, you guys can kind of chime in too. Is telling me it's gonna go down anytime within at least 30 days, right? I mean, every single factor out there is telling us there's gonna be less wood out there. There's gonna be less premium out there. Everything's just gonna be less. So the price, assuming it has to go up. But I did get a C in my economics 101 class, and the other side of supply is demand. So moving forward here, we'll have to see if that demand is actually gonna, make a difference here if there's less supply out there. Which I think it will. I mean, we're heading into the fall season. This should be the busy season moving forward here. And, looking at areas that kind of just I'm completely getting off the married date segment now, but looking at areas
that gambling, but it's okay.
That's what we do. Looking at areas that have gotten like hammered throughout the year, especially, I mean, of course, Matt's been dealing with this too, is Texas. I mean, it'll be 110 degrees for 2 weeks, and then they'll get a hurricane. I mean, they can't get anything really started here, and hopefully the fall, you would think that would bring better weather into Texas, and they could actually get a more consistent takeaway. So that's a lot more wood that needs to go into that market. Then, of course, the Carolinas, unfortunately, you had that big storm there. We'll see the takeaway from that. But in our business, unfortunately, one of the unfortunate consequences, I guess you'd call, is, natural disaster means you need to come back and build more houses. So,
Yeah.
those have been two huge markets, for us here the past 2 years for sure, Southeast and Texas, and with all those events going there, you'd have to think more wood needs to go into those marketplaces in the fall.
No, good thought. Hey, Joe, I just was thinking too, that economics, the econ class you took and got the C in, was that the first time you took it?
The funny thing is, even funnier thing is, it was actually on a bell curve. I had a 68 and I got a C+.
Trust me,
everybody stunk at that class, and the guy was like, I can't have everybody fail because I'm going to look horrible. I'm just going to curve this. I'm like, hey, that's the way we roll. I like it.
We've all
C's get degrees,
right.
baby.
That's right. Well, listen, Joe, we really appreciate you showing up. Matt, Greg, thank you. Hopefully our listeners can make some better decisions. Like we said, this isn't. This is just our idea. Don't use it as a.
Did he freeze me out, Matt? Did he freeze me out? I think he did. Didn't he?
Yeah, he just blew you right off.
Oh no!
It doesn't matter that he works for you. You work for him. No, look,
I thought Greg already went. Man, go.
No, I was just letting you go, man. So I mean, we've got this backdrop we got this backdrop that, hey, we're going into. So if we go with the assumption that end users don't have any excess inventory, normally September, October are big months for chewing up wood, right? I mean, those are good months for consumption. And historically, the market's a little punk there because everybody's reducing their inventory to go into the slower time of wintertime. So we're not going to have a whole lot of reduction in inventory if end-use consumption is, on par of what it's been. We know we're going to get a lot less production as we go forward between now and the end of the year. We know that we're going to get a lot less imported lumber between now and the end of the year. So, that having been said, back to what we talked about before. I mean, my Mary is, hey, and and we're already we're long a lot of them is 2x4 16s, and I'm saying, hey, I think I could be selling 2x4 16s close to $600 delivered into the markets sometime in late September or October. Okay, the dating, you know what? 2x4 anything is undervalued, and I'm going to go with Matt's deal is it's undervalued. So to the extent that producers can shift production to other items, they're going to do it because they're still on balance losing money at today's prices. Back to the dump. I mean, at this point, Ash has done a great job, and the last 30 days we've turned probably 80% of our inventory. So we have very little that we need to, like, quote unquote, still deal with. And, as we identify that, we're going to be offloading it. So there's nothing special in particular to dump. I mean, the no grade stamp in Florida, we do have more coming in next week. And so, Joe, yeah, we're going to flip that like a pancake.
Right. And Greg, just for everybody who listens to that no grade stamp, I mean, who do you think is the end user for that? Like, what are they using for that application, you think, on no grade stamp?
There's markets that use it for plate material because it looks just the same as 2 and better. All sorts of industrial users. We've got some guys that cut it up and make it into short studs, right?
For those barns.
So, to clarify, is it actually no grade stamp, or does it have a KDHT stamp?
It has an HT stamp on it. It's
not completely no grade stamp.
A lot of it is honestly, a lot of it is split 2x8. So it has the side knots, which is why they can't put 2 and better on it. But man, I look at it and I go, it looks beautiful.
It always comes in looking pretty good.
Right? You just go like, wow, this is really good looking stuff. So anyhow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Oh, thanks, Greg.
All I know, Ashley, is Dave's going to have his work cut him out for him this week. You're going to have to pay him double.
He does a good job making us sound good. I have him. I got him set up. We got a meeting with the audio visual people from Vancouver to make sure the podcast sounds good when we're on stage in October.
I think we should have Russ on next week. Let him get one more push to get people up there.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Also, I wanted to, Ash, off the air, can you send me whatever you've got from Russ about the reservations and travel plans
Absolutely.
and all that stuff. You were talking
Yeah.
about.
Joe,
Right.
hey,
Thanks,
great
bud.
having you as always,
Yep.
buddy.
You guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Pleasure.
I mean,
It's an honor getting to talk to you guys.
like for an opportunity
Joe.
to hang out with a guy in his like late 20s and talk lumber, it just doesn't get any better.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. I think I'm all right.
All right, guys.
Take care, fellas.
Thank you. All right,
Thanks,
bye.
guys. See ya.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.